From the mysteries of the universe to the mysteries of the unknown, this is Mysterious Realms with Mr. Cyber. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Here is your host, Mr. Cyber.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Elijah, aka Mr. Cyber, and welcome to another episode of Mysterious Realms. Today's topic, it's a fascinating one, and I'm kind of merging and trying to see how they're related, which in a way they can be. I was reading the headlines. I'm pretty sure you all read this too, but the Haiti president was assassinated this morning. Very sad. A bunch of gunmen stormed the residence there in Haiti who claimed to be DEA agents. The question is, are we going to be sending in troops? I know we sent in troops to Haiti years ago to help keep the peace in the country. But who knows? But that is very sad when anybody gets hurt or assassinated. So we have what happened in Haiti. We have this new variant, they're saying, of COVID-19 called Lambda. And then we got hurricanes going on, building up. And the reason I mention all this is I always think of one thing. And involved in this and surrounding all this is demonic activity, negative energy, the paranormal, and everything related. And just reading that news today, I was like, you know what? Anything bad that happens like that when somebody's killed or there's evil in the world, to me, there's always something demonic about it and very evil. And it's sad, but unfortunately, we got to face the reality of it. And today's guest is a researcher who delves into the dark side of the paranormal, which is a very interesting topic, which I'm always fascinated in, and I'm sure our audience are as well. So today we're going to be talking to June Lundgren. And just to give her whole background, she's a psychic medium, animal communicator, healer, nurse, demon seer, international paranormal investigator, and author with over 40 years of experience in the paranormal field. And as a child, she communicated with spirits, animals, and angels. June served in the military where she trained as a nurse and an EMT. After returning from the military, she continued to work in the medical field as a nurse and is currently the founding member of ghostsandgirlsparanormal.com. If you check the description below, you can see her websites, her contact info, and we have all the books that she has. But her website has a lot of all the update stuff. But we're going to have a very interesting discussion today with June regarding paranormal activity and the demonic realm. Because if you've seen the headlines, even the past year or decade, you kind of see a buildup of this stuff happening. Whether you're paying attention to it or not, it's like something's completely different. So let's get right into it. It's my honor to have our guest today, June Lundgren. Well, hello, June. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me. I know it's going to be a fun show.
Oh, it's going to be great. So I just want to ask, this topic is very fascinating. It fascinates me, and I know it fascinates our audience. The question I want to start with is, what got you involved in this field specifically?
Well, you either do it because it's a calling or you don't do it at all. And for me, I think it started mostly with to helping others with it. Was helped when I died and went to the other side. In 1988, I died in a motorcycle accident.
What?
I was riding my bike, and a woman ran a red light and hit me. and I wasn't wearing a helmet, and I was clinically dead for 2 minutes.
Wow.
And when I went to the other side, my grandparents were there waiting for me. And Michael the Archangel was there, and he's like, you need to understand, the reason you're here right now is because you need to understand who and what you are. And I said, yeah, I'm just me. He says, no, you don't understand. He says, you're thinking like a human. He says, this is who you truly are. And he touched my forehead, and in almost like a flash, I relived all the human lives I've spent, I guess, since 1198 AD.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, this is who you truly are. And he said, look down at yourself. And I looked at myself, and my body wasn't my body anymore. It looked a lot like him. It was like 7 feet tall, 12-foot wingspan. My hair was a dark auburn, and my eyes were a greenish blue. And he said, this is who you truly are. He said, you are Ariel, the Archangel, demon slayer, and one of the 5 that guard the throne of God. He says, your job in this lifetime, as in all your other lifetimes, is to remove demons. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I've never even heard of Ariel, but, because I'm not Catholic. And I'm like, okay, and he said, you have to go back because there's much for you to do. And then he said, the reason you're back in physical form is in 1198 AD, a woman called out for help because she was being possessed by a demon. God sent you to answer the call, and you ripped the demon out of the woman, and the body died. And this wasn't the first time this happened. He said, God said you had no regard for human life or no compassion for man. So your sentence was to go back and relive physical lives until you learn to have compassion for mankind. And that gave me a lot to think about, and he sent me back, and the police officer that was standing over me trying to find a pulse was very relieved when I opened my eyes. And so when I got out of the hospital, I had a fractured skull and a right radial head fracture, right arm fracture. And I tried to find what I could on Ariel, and the only thing I could find was her name means Lion of God, and she's one of the 5 that guard the throne of God. And Michael the Archangel, who's been with me since I was a child, said, you need to understand. We need to merge you so that you can hear her and she can hear you. But she could already hear me. But
yeah.
So he did what he called a merge. And from then on, I could see what she sees. I can hear what she hears. And I know what she's thinking. When I do a removal or I'm in a location where there's a negative entity, she automatically wants to come forward. And for years when I was doing this, people looked at me strange when I was doing the removal and never even thought about asking them why. But then a friend of mine, she went with me on a removal, and she said, do you realize that when Ariel comes forward, your eyes turn white, your face changes, looks like you're 20 years old, and you have wings coming out of your shoulders? I'm like, no, I'm a little busy. And she says, well, that's why all these people, all these years have been looking at me weird.
Well, that's fascinating.
I've only actually been doing the removals since 1988.
Okay.
But I've always been able to see them, hear them, and, know when they're there. I see demons in their true form, not the way humans see them. I see them through angelic eyes. And that started when I was about 4.5 to 5 years old. They are, if you look at them, they look like an archangel. They're about 7 feet tall, 12-foot wingspan. But when you look at their face, there are no features but eyes. And in those eyes are every evil you can ever imagine, and then some. It's the stuff that true nightmares are made of. So
Wow.
people do not want to see what I see. Only 3 people have ever done that. And that's because I have the ability to, if they hold my hand, I have the ability to have them see what I see. And I had a friend that's a minister, and then I have another friend that's a medium, and then Zach Baggins from Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
And none of them want to see it again.
Well, you know what? That's fascinating. I've ran into a couple individuals years ago, not recently, that had similar things, and they said, and they actually told me, when you see something like this, it's a fact. You never really want to see it again, because it's almost like the worst nightmare, or that figure or that entity you see in the nightmare in its true form, and it's something you never want to experience or see ever again. But some individuals like yourself, you were meant to actually see that or deal with it. So you're kind of not immune, but you're what's the firm?
I see these things. I've seen these things this way since I was 5. So for me, they're not scary.
Yeah,
because
correct.
That's just how they are. Because at the time, before that, I saw them just as a blob or a mass. And the first time I saw one in its true form, I was afraid. And Michael said, "You don't have to worry about that." He says, "I'll protect you until it's time for you to do what you need to do." And at 5, you don't understand that, but you just know that he's going to protect you. And that's just the way it looks.
Fascinating. Well, here's a question for you, June. Some people get confused about this. I do once in a while, because I'm like, okay, what's the difference? But what exactly is like a negative entity specifically? Are there different forms
There are, yeah.
Okay. Are you able to go through that a little bit?
Yeah, a negative entity can cover a world of things. You can have an earthbound spirit, which is a human spirit, who's nasty in life and they're nasty in death. So they can be negative because of that. And say like, Jack the Ripper, say, and he was negative in life and in death, because they don't ascend to the light, they remain earthbound. They keep that physical consciousness. So they're doing exactly what they were doing back then, being nasty.
Okay.
And then there are in the demonic world or the inhuman world, there are levels. There's Lucifer, who of course rules over it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are what I call the old demons. They're the oldest of the demons. They're very wise. They're very strong, and we're not worth their time and energy 99% of the time to bother with us. But then there are the lesser demons. They're a step down from them, and I call them, they're like hormonal teenagers. They want to run rampant and cause chaos and problems and, whatever. They're the ones you're going to find in the physical world most of the time. And then there are the minions, which are like the creepy crawly dudes.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you'll see like, they can turn themselves into spiders and the flat-looking people and all kinds of things. They do whatever they can, to scare the heck out of you.
Indeed.
And then and a shadow person is a minion. But the difference between a shadow person and a regular demon or even the creepy crawlies is they are loners. They do not want any other negative entity in their territory. If you find one or more than one shadow person in a location, that's unusual, and that's asking for trouble. And then there are what I call the wild cards. There's the incubus, the succubus, and what I call the watchers. The watchers are kind of neither positive nor negative. They usually do not take sides in this spiritual warfare. They kind of observe, and sometimes they can be like size. They can bring information to one side or the other.
Oh, I got what you're saying. Okay, so
Yeah.
in a way, they kind of play like a neutral role, except when it comes to like espionage, kind of.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
There are a few that work for the light, and there are a few that work for the dark. It's just a matter of if they choose a side or not.
Correct. Now, going back to, so with negative entities and like earthbound spirits and mental illness, here's something I've always wondered. Does it play a huge role depending on like how like spiritually grounded you are, like myself or somebody who's very susceptible or not, I don't want to say weak, but someone that doesn't have a firm grip and are easily can be manipulated? Do they tend to go after those individuals a lot easier than someone such as myself or you, let's say?
Yeah, it makes them a bigger target. What they're looking for primarily, and the top of their list of wants, is people with substance abuse, people with mental illness, people that are in an abusive situation, whether they grew up in an abusive household or are currently in an abusive situation. The next thing down on their list is they're looking for people with faith because they want to turn them away from the light to the dark. They're a challenge for them. If they can turn them, then that's a feather in their cap. They even go for clergy. So it's not like they're, it's not like they're off limits.
Yeah.
It's even better for them if they got one of them to change, to turn away.
No, exactly.
From the light.
Oh, indeed, because kind of like people in those positions, let's say a demon or a negative entity, and it can influence one of those individuals. Some of those individuals, like clergy, a lot of people, that's kind of a big base, because if you can get one of them, like who else is going to follow or easily be prone?
Exactly. What better way to control or to ruin humans than by going to the leaders of the religious sects?
Oh, that's a perfect target. And a lot of people think...
Because
go ahead.
They influence a lot of people in the world. Like, say, I'm not even going there, but that, my new book, I talk about who they're influencing in the world. That the Vatican has issues.
Oh, gosh, they do. Right, well, I was raised Catholic. I can tell you this. So I did used to be Catholic. I left the Catholic Church at 21 years old. But don't believe me, I'm still a full believer. But what happened is it was just the way things were going. And I started standing back and I looked at the bigger picture of what was going on. And I'm like, you know what? Now, I'm not talking about the people, okay? I'm talking about same with you. We're talking about the foundation itself, or the Catholic Church, the way it was.
How they do things.
Exactly, how they do things, not individuals. But I see there's so much like demonic influence.
Oh, yeah.
And there have been insider priests or Jesuits that have anonymously come out and have said this stuff, saying, no, this is actually true. And it's so obvious, June.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why, the book that I'm working on right now, I'm getting finished, is called Demon Seer, The Awakening, because it talks about what's going on in the world right now, who's being influenced, how they're doing it, all the different things that people should look for and don't even realize are happening.
Yeah, and it's, a lot of people think, and I'm sure you can attest to this, everyone thinks it has to be a big changing event. No, things can take centuries, but they slowly slip things in where you will. It's so slow that you won't notice unless you're actually watching for it.
Exactly. You would have to be able to sit back. It's like I say about an individual. If you have an individual who has an attachment, if you sit back and watch, you can see the changes that occur in that individual over, a course of 6 months even. It's amazing to see the change.
Wow. All I can say is just be on guard. But what gets me is how can people, or what are some myths about what will protect you from negative entities?
And it's one of the things is a lot of people's misconception is, that demons only go after bad people.
Yeah.
That's not true. Why go after somebody who's already bad?
I know, that makes no sense.
What fun is that? Yeah, it doesn't gain them anything. Some of the things that people think, oh God, I watch once in a while. I watch some of the shows, the paranormal shows that are on TV, and one of them is like, oh yes, get some tar water, that will protect you. Well, tar water is a carcinogen. It's like, it'll give you cancer. Like, why would you want to mess with that, man? And besides, it doesn't do any good. All it does is harm to you.
Yeah.
Another thing is brake dust. OMG.
Oh,
Somebody
my gosh.
said, well, now if you just sprinkle the brake dust along, the entry to your house, you'll be fine. I'm like, really? Ooh, I want to try that.
Or, if you get some WD-40 and put it down, it's just like, come on.
Yeah, right. It's like walk in a circle backwards 3 times, and that'll protect you. Or put the Eye of Horus over your entryway, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like, none of that. Or crystals. They'll tell you to lay down crystals.
I've heard crystals forever, and what gets me is I've talked to other individuals like you, and they're like, what's sad is people get misinformation about things like that. And they'll be like, oh, no, it works. It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So what's your...
amplify energy only.
Yeah.
If it's bad energy that's there, they'll amplify it. If it's good energy, they'll amplify it. That's all they do.
So what's your recommendation on something that... or what do people usually do that works? Or what have you heard?
If you're just trying to ward them off, then a prayer is a powerful thing, and invoking the name of whatever deity you believe in, whether it's Jehovah, or whether it's Buddha, whatever.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I learned when I was on the other side is that thought becomes reality in their world, dark or light, and that is the intention behind the thought that gives it power. So if your intention is to do good or to be protected, then that's what you get. If your intention is to do bad, that's what you get as well. But the prayer is powerful. And like I said, invoking the name of whatever deity that you believe in.
Yeah.
And then putting holy water above each window and door in your home, and with the sign of the cross, and asking for God's protection to let nothing negative pass through this, the opening.
Correct.
And then you can also use anointing oil. Will do the same thing. It will protect against it from getting in. The other thing is when I started removing demons, God gave me he said, I want you to start helping the people that you're removing the demons from. They have to be protected. Their home, their individuals. So he said, I'm going to give you a recipe for black salt. And I never even heard of black salt. And, we're talking 30-some years ago. And so he says, this is how you make it, and I will bless it at each step of the making. So I make it by hand. And when, people request it, so I send them a bag of the salt with instructions. And in 40 years, it's never failed to protect. It works really good. And I have a sister group I formed in the UK, and they put the black salt inside a cremation necklace, and they could actually feel it heat up in the presence of a negative.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, sometimes it gets to the point where it's so hot they can hardly wear it.
So I just want to go back really.
That's the other thing that will help. That's all that I know that that really will help.
Well, I want to go back to what you said, and I know you're absolutely right about, like a first line of defense prayer. Absolutely.
Yep.
And I know firsthand that works. But I find what you said fascinating. Like whenever you make that, what was it called? Black salt.
Yeah.
So each step of the process. So when you do one part of the process, there's like a prayer. And then you proceed on to the other one.
Well, see, at each step, I soak the contents in holy water, and I leave it in the sun to dry. And then once it dries, I ask for God's blessing on it. And see, I can hear God like I talk to you.
Yeah.
So he does it. And then, of course, the angel, which is inside of me, my soul is Ariel, the archangel. So she puts some of her energy inside of it, too, so that makes it more powerful. The thing is, in the war between heaven and hell, Ariel disarmed Lucifer's son, and Michael disarmed Lucifer. So they fear Ariel, and they fear the legion, which is Ariel, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. They fear them the most. So if her energy's in it, they want to be anywhere but there.
Wow. I tell you what, that's a tough, no, not a tough, that's a strong, it's not a duo, whatever. That's a tough group of,
yeah, God formed the Legion of Light.
Yeah, that's it.
Prior to the war between heaven and hell. People don't understand what the war was all about. And, I've had people that were raised Catholic and stuff, and they say, they teach us about it, but nobody ever tells us what happened and why it was, what happened, what started it, nothing. And I said, that's quite simple. I said, people are not always ready to hear that we had physical bodies, over thousands of years ago, and we lived on another planet. And at that time, the entity, which is the greater consciousness that we call God, found us. We were a primitive race. And he helped us to overcome war and famine and disease. And we evolved into pure energy. And that's what we call angels. And we traveled all the galaxies together. I mean, we traveled everywhere because our whole goal at that point was to learn everything we can, see everything we can, because you evolve, you grow from learning.
Yeah, that's true.
And then one day, quite a few of the souls said, listen, we're tired of this. We want to have a physical body again. We want to know love. We want to have children. We want to experience that again. And there was a division among the souls. There was about 60-40. And the 40% said, no way, we don't want to do that. We don't want to be subjected to growing old, to pain, to disease. That's not for us. And Lucifer was the leader of that. And God knew long before then that that Lucifer would show his true colors. It just was a matter of when, not if. So that's why he created the Legion of Light. And they would be elite. They would be like a sniper group, Navy SEALs.
Yeah.
It would be that elite. And they in turn trained warrior angels. And so there are, billions of warrior angels.
Wow.
So once he started to pull himself against the others, God told him, when Michael disarmed Lucifer and Ariel disarmed his son, he told him, I'm going to give you exactly what you want. You're never going to be able to take physical form again, but you can't live among us. So he opened a rift into a dark realm, and they all went in there, and he sealed the rift. But Azrael said, well, what if one of them wants to come home? What if one of them changes and gives up that way of being? How are we going to know? How are we going to help them? He says, I want to go into the dark realm to wait, to help. And so he and nine other archangels volunteered to go and await for people. But on the other hand, he's also gives good intel to Ariel.
Oh, indeed. Oh, they're good.
Yeah, but there have been a handful that have returned to the light. So he says, it was good I stayed. It was good that I'm there.
Oh, most definitely. Wow. Sorry, I got goosebumps from this. This is just so... Well, you know what? Everything you're saying is so true because it's... it's just... Wow. This is awesome. But
yeah, it resonates with a lot of people.
Well, it does resonate. It resonates with me, and I can't even, and I can't put it into words because I've been a believer all my life, and I'll tell you firsthand, I am a Christian, and I know all this is facts. It's true. That's what's crazy about it. But no matter what you believe, you can come from any background, and, any belief will tell you this stuff is real. So no matter, even if we're on different pages,
bad and everything.
Well, yeah, and even if we're on different pages with that, guess what? The fact that this stuff is real, look at the bigger picture. What's that tell you?
Yeah,
there's a God and there's all that. But one thing I've always been interested in also, or is like when you watch a movie, like let's say Annabelle, or like you remember the movie Child's Play with Chucky. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was watched that when I was like 6 years old. Oh my gosh. So like attachments and infestation possessions. How do these negative entities or demonic energies use those in an everyday life? Like even from a doll, like even in this day, dolls just scare me. It's like people that have doll collections. It's like, why? And then they want you to stay in that guest room.
Yeah. See, the thing is, a lot of those objects, like the Dybbuk box, a lot of those objects have demons that were bound to the object. It's not that they said, "Oh, I want to attach myself to this doll." No. They don't like to be trapped. They don't like that. That's like putting them in a body. They don't want anything to do with it. Someone had to bind that entity to the doll. Somebody had to bind that entity to the Dybbuk box. And that's how they get that way. And, a lot of people think, well, if you just put white salt around it, it's going to keep it, it's going to contain what's in it. No, it doesn't. Black salt would. White salt, the only thing white salt keeps away would be earthbound negatives. It won't help you with an inhuman. That's another, fantasy fallacy.
Yeah.
White salt it's not going to cut it. Not in a million years. I have been doing this for 46 years. It's like, no. None of that stuff helps.
Yeah. You know what? If I was just asked, you would know. I mean, especially after all those years of doing this, it's like, come on.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
They just laugh. I went in on got called in on a case up in Vancouver, Battleground, Washington.
Yeah.
And I got this case from another group who said, you know what, there's negatives here. We can't help. That's why I'm giving it to you. I'm like, oh, good.
Oh, thanks.
And and what the group had done was they had given this guy crystals and said, oh, put these crystals in all four corners of your house and you'll be fine.
Oh, gosh.
The guy, he put the crystals down, and during the night he was pulled out of bed, scratches all the way down his back. And when he finally got up in the morning, all the crystals were broken in half.
Wow.
And so that's when he told them this is what happened, and they called me, and so I said, yeah, I'll go. And I got there, and the guy said, I want to make sure that you're a Christian. I said, yeah, what else would I be, a satanic worshiper or something? How can Beelzebub cast out Beelzebub? It doesn't work that way,
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went up there, and I'm like, holy crap. This one's an old demon. Why is this old demon here? Because the minute I get to a location or see a picture of a location, I know what's there, I know why it's there, I know how it got there. But I got there, and this thing was entombed in the ground. I'm like, why was it entombed in the ground? I don't get it. So I went in. I took a friend of mine who's an ordained minister and his wife. I was a member of their group at the time, and I said, "You want to go with me?" They're like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we went into the place, and I know where the demon is. so I start heading up the stairs, and my friends were behind me, and the demon tried to push the guy's wife down the stairs, and I could see the demon reach into his the ordained minister's chest and squeeze his heart, and I stopped it. He says, later he told me I thought I was going to have a heart attack before I even made it halfway up the steps. I'm like, yeah, I know. So I get up there, and I went into the bedroom where it was, and I said, why are you here? Why were you entombed in the ground? And he wasn't going to tell me, and then Michael and Gabe showed up on either side of him and grabbed a hold of him and made him tell me. He had gone against Lucifer. He had opposed him.
Oh.
So Lucifer entombed him in the ground as punishment. And he knew that if he ever got out of there and returned to the dark, that Lucifer would kill him. So I told him, I said, well, I'm going to give you exactly what you don't want. I said, I must send you back to him. He's ready and waiting. I said, goodbye. So I sent him back there, and I don't care what happened to him after he's back.
Yeah, who cares anymore?
I know what happened to him.
Well, see, but you were meant to be there to perform that, I mean, that was your sole duty. And it's, who cares? You're sending them back. Yeah, it's not your problem now.
That's not my problem, man. As long as you're out of here, that's okay.
Well, here's what gets me. The gentleman that used the crystals, was he just misinformed? Or he got the wrong info?
Some people just believe in different things because either they're raised that way, or they get in with a group that teaches that, or, they read online, this will help you. Well, it won't. Yeah. But it's not his fault.
Of course not.
He was trying to do the best he could.
Yeah.
And until I come along, people don't understand that these things won't protect you. It's like that's another reason I wrote the book, The Dark Side of the Paranormal, because for years people have been after me about, write a book, tell us, we need to understand. Well, about 10, 12 years ago, my friends were after me to do Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo. That happens a couple times a year. And I thought, okay, I'll do it. If you go and you're a vendor there, you get to give a lecture. And my friend said, oh, just give a lecture on, archangels or something like that. I'm like, no, the heck with that stuff. I'm going to talk about the dark side of the paranormal. And I said, nobody ever talks about it. People are afraid. So I thought, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I was a little bit late getting into my lecture because somebody was, talking to me that they needed help. So when I got in there, there was standing room only. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I did my lecture, which was 45 minutes long, and people came by my booth afterwards thanking me for it. That it was about time somebody talked about it. Because I had some Reiki masters come along and say, you know what, our masters taught us that we're not supposed to read about it, we're not supposed to think about it, we're not supposed to talk about it because that will draw attention to them. It will draw them to you. I told them, you don't have to do that. If they want you, they're going to find you.
Yep.
Whether you do it or not. I said, it's not a big deal. And they're like, we're glad that somebody finally did. And they said, well, you need to write a book. So after that, I wrote the book.
So you ended up writing, so that was The Dark Side of the Paranormal, that book.
Yeah, The Dark Side of the Paranormal talks about, what demons are, how they work, what their MOs are, what their weaknesses are, and what their fears are. People think they don't have weakness. People think they don't have fears, but they do.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why they tried to stop me from writing the book. I'm like, dream on, man. You can't stop Ariel, so I don't even know why you're even trying.
Exactly. Well, you know what? Here's what's fascinating, and I'm glad you said what you said, because so at first I wanted you to talk about like the archangel and all that stuff, but you wanted to talk about the dark side. And what's fascinating, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, because so as a Christian myself, okay, Jesus talks more about evil than he does like heaven. And the reason he does, he wants you to be aware of it.
Yes, he wants you to be aware of it. He wants to warn you. He wants you to look out for it because it's everywhere.
Exactly. And that's why you said, no, I'm going to talk about, the dark side. And I think that was actually a smart move on your part. It's like, yeah, we know good's here. We know good's, but people focus too much on the good, but they need to, focusing on the good's great, but you have to be aware of the other side of the coin as well.
Exactly.
Or more aware.
I was having a conversation with Jesus one day, and he's like, I don't understand why humans insist on focusing on my death. He says, I want them to focus on how I lived and what my teachings were.
Yeah.
He says, I died. Okay, I died. He said, but the reason I died was to bring enlightenment to the world and to my teachings. He said, people need to focus on that and not my death.
Exactly. See, people miss the big picture. Not intentionally sometimes, but they get distracted.
A lot of it is how they're taught.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? God, I had a talk about religion one day, and he's like, he says, religion is man's way of putting a square peg in a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't fit. It's their way of trying to, answer the questions about, how to be this way, how to be that way. He says, I prefer people to be spiritual.
Yeah.
His religion is man-made. He says, I didn't make it up. He said, man made it up to try to explain things.
Exactly.
And, in an orderly manner, so to speak.
See, June, you get it. You get it. Exactly right. It's exactly right. Wow. Man, you're just hitting every nail on the head. I love this. I love this. And this is stuff people need to hear because some people, they get it, but they don't. And putting it into context where they can understand is really important. That's why, I really, and we're going to be sharing all your information, your books, your websites, etc. But I think, they need to go read your book. And if I'm guessing, correct me if I'm wrong, do you think the first one they should check out is The Dark Side of the Paranormal?
If they're having an issue or they suspect, that there's something like that, then get The Dark Side of the Paranormal. The first one I wrote was called The Medium's Guide to the Paranormal. And it covers a lot of different, it's like 300 pages. It covers a lot of different aspects, everything from ghosts to demons. It just gives you a broad perspective. And I wrote it in such a way that it's like I'm sitting down here talking to you, because I don't believe in writing something, that's so convoluted that you can't understand it, or using words that you won't understand. And in some of my reviews of my book, they say, this is a very down-to-earth type of book. It's very easy to understand, and it's written for the everyday person. And if they want to know more about that's a good one. But, like I said, the end of this month, I hope to have Demon Seer, The Awakening. And that's, if they're really interested in what's going on in the world today, when it comes to the negatives, that's the one for you. But the dark side is a really good one if they're curious about it, or if they have a friend or something, or they've maybe encountered it. The one piece of advice I can give anybody, whether they're doing a paranormal investigation or they're just going through a building, is if you think you see a shadow person or a dark entity, do not, absolutely, do not recognize it. Do not say anything. Do not acknowledge it. Because if you do, it makes them see you. And you don't want them to see you. You don't want them to, you just want them to think you're another stupid human and for them to move on. But if you acknowledge it, they're like, oh, this person can see me. Let's see what else we can do.
Well, I've seen a shadow person before. I think a lot of people have, but they don't realize it. I remember the first time it was in my peripheral vision,
Exactly.
And after that, it got more. But I learned, don't acknowledge, just act like you don't even see it.
Right.
but it's very real. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, there's not. Oh no. I mean, when you see, like, just even if it's a shadow person, to me a shadow person is like the basic of the basic. I don't know, but but
they're more common than you know, and the problem with shadow people is they kind of work slowly to integrate themselves, and they can suck the life force out of you. They can stop your heart. People don't realize there's a lot of things that they can do to you that you don't even realize. They start out with giving you nightmares, and then they move on to start taking your source, your life source from you. You wake up, you're tired, like you never went to sleep, day in, day out, and it only gets worse, and then you get depression. It's a whole litany of things that they do to you. It's like they're unlike a demon in some ways. They're not like a lesser demon or an old demon. Those guys will watch you for a period of time. They can watch you for months, weeks, years, and you won't even know it, because they'll be observing you to see what your weaknesses are, what your strengths are, if you're easily influenced. All these things play into it. And people think, oh, they just decide to attach one day without anything, without nothing, for no reason. They have reasons. But like I said, they'll always watch. I liken them to stalkers, because they'll wait, they'll watch, they'll gauge what's important to you. Are you easily, manipulated? Are you strong? Do you have a lot of faith? Or are you into substances? Whatever they can use against you. And if they find you wanting, then they'll move on to somebody else, and you'll never even know how close you came to it. But if they decide to attach themselves, that's when they start. You'll know.
Oh, yeah. Well, because if there's not to attach, they're not going to keep wasting their time. But, yeah, I mean, it is like they're a stalker. They're kind of like a field op, or a sniper. It's just waiting around. You guys just scope the area, and then you find one slip up.
Scope it out. See what their weaknesses are.
Yeah, you find one mistake, and you found a vulnerability. You can get in. So it's
and that's what they go for. And I was having a conversation with Michael one day. I said, Michael, how come it takes a Catholic priest so long to remove a demon? I mean, I've seen where they take years.
Oh yeah.
The person will come back once a week for years, or once a month for years, and to do, and they'll work on exercising the demon. And I'm like, why does it take them so long? And he said one word to me. He said, doubt. I said, what do you mean? I mean, they're supposed to be, that's what they do. They're exorcists. And he says, if they have doubt in what they're doing, they have doubt in themselves, or doubt if they, whether they can do what, that they'll be able to do it, or if they have doubt in their religion, or doubt in God. Any of those factors it'll be an uphill battle for a long time. He says, you, on the other hand, don't have that issue. Ariel comes forward, your consciousness goes back. She has absolutely no doubt on what she's doing, because she's been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. He said it's not a problem with her. She has no fear, no doubt, and the minute she comes forward, they know they're screwed, and they want to be anywhere but there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I wouldn't want to be. They are screwed. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, that's fine. Because the first one I did a removal on was my brother.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it's like when I had looked up what Ariel was and stuff, and he says, I got a call from my sister-in-law. Her aunt was Sybil Leek. In the 70s, she was a major, psychic medium. And she says, there's something wrong with your brother. Because his eyes turn black, and he's growling, and she says, he scares me. I'm like, how long has this been going on? She says, going on for a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh, crap. I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up there. I said, I don't want you to let him know I'm coming. I said, just when he gets to the house, I'm going to go down and have some coffee. I said, when he gets to the house, ring me once and then hang up. I said, then I'll know that he's there. And so she did, and I went to the house, and Michael and Gabe were with me, and Michael says, get out of the car. I'm okay. So I get out of the car. He says, face the house and call the demon to you. I'm looking at him like, are you out of your mind? He said, just do what I say. I told him, I said, you got my back, right? Because I hadn't done one before. And he's like, yeah, I got your back. So I called the demon to me. I said, demon, come forth. And this thing comes through the wall of the house and towards me. It got about 5 feet away, and then Ariel came forward. And the thing stopped in a hurry. She grabbed it by the throat. And she's like, stupid demon, don't you know who I am? She says, I've seen you before. He says, I don't like you. And she pulled out her white light sword and sliced through it. And the molecules from it just went out into the heavens. And then she went into the back of my mind, and she retreated, and I said, you did that. He's like, Michael's like, you had to understand that she would come forward always, and she would always be there to deal with the demon. And I said, but you use me as bait. He's like, well, sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
You do got to learn the hard way. That's how it is in life too, and I, even that demon, when Ariel was there, see that demon wasn't too bright. He's like, no.
And it's like, he's like, from that moment, I've never had any fear of them or any doubt at all.
Oh, of course.
So that was 46 years ago.
So with the negative realm, so I know just like in the military or, in business, you got hierarchies, right? You got all these different levels. How does it work in the negative realm or on the dark side specifically?
It works actually. Actually, there is a hierarchy. Of course, Lucifer is at demons have a dark and light name.
Mm-hmm.
His light name is Lucifer. His dark name is Satan. So I always use Lucifer, but and he is in control. Then there's his first in command and second in command. Then there are the old demons. They are the highest ranking, and they control a lot of the lesser demons. And the lesser demons are below them. The lesser demons have no respect for anyone or anything except power and strength and old demons. They fear the old demon. And the stupid ones don't. And they learn the lesson one way or another. And then there are the minions who are controlled by the lesser demons and the dark ones and the old demons. But the thing is, Lucifer has respect for the Legion. I have a friend there are 8 of us archangels in the world today that are reborn. And I found all but one. One of them is a friend of mine. I found him a few years ago, and he lives in Scotland. And his archangel is Hanel. And Lucifer and Hanel were best friends before the war. And they were like really, really close. So he still has respect and considers Hanel a friend of his. He says, we just have a different opinion on whether be physical or not. He says, I still have respect for my friend. So he will go and visit him from time to time. And about a year ago, I told him, I said, ask Hanel what he thinks about Ariel. And Lucifer had stopped by, and he said, I asked him, and he says, respect the assassin. Because she used to be a member of the assassins, too, angelic assassin. So he says, respect the assassin. Of course he does, because he knows that she can take him out. But there is that respect. He has respect for the Legion of Light. And it's very apparent. I went in on a possession case. I did a show called Ground Zero.
Oh, with Clyde Lewis?
With Clyde Lewis, yeah, he's a friend of mine.
Oh, yeah, it's such a great show. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Oh, yeah.
I had to remove a demon from him recently. Ugh.
Oh, it's crazy.
I know. I'm like, quit saying their names. If you don't say their names, you won't have this problem.
Yeah, don't attract them anyhow.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
come on, Clyde. What are you doing, man?
I know. So I told them, I said, what do you think? Man, come on. Anyway, so I went in on this case, and I took my friend that was the minister and the other girl that forms Ghosts and Girls. And so we knock on the door. I knock on the door, and the woman opens the door, and her eyes are black, and she's growling, and she's speaking to me in Aramaic and telling me, get out, and slams the door. My friends are looking at each other like, really? I'm like, don't worry about it. No problem. Knock on the door again. And she answers, and they're not in possession at that moment. So we go inside, and Ariel usually only takes a couple minutes to do the removals. So 3 hours into it, because this woman had 11 entities in her.
Wow.
She'd been having them for 20 years. So we got to the point where there was one left. And this one was hiding. It was hiding from Lucifer. I finally was able to get into his brain and find out that he was hiding from Lucifer because he was given a job to go to a bishop and, turn him. And he just didn't bother to do it. Like, not happening. So he was hiding out in this woman. And I told him, I said, listen, do you want to go home? Do you want to go back to the light? And it said, I can go back? And I said, yes. I said, I'll ask Jesus to come for you. And he didn't believe me. I said, I will. And I asked Jesus, I said, come forth. And both of my friends are standing in front of me, in front of the woman who's in the chair in front of me. And they both parted as this huge hand, the white hand, came out towards the demon. And the demon, they parted because they saw this hand coming out. They were going to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So, Jesus said, come, I'll take you home. But the demon was afraid. He didn't believe. And he said, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. So Jesus withdrew. And I said, okay, that was your last chance. Ariel said, Lucifer, come forth. And both of my friends are like freaking out because he appeared at the end of the hallway to my right. And what they saw was this black figure in a fedora and spats and 19 double-breasted suit, like from the 20s or whatever. He's coming down. I see him in his true form, but that's how they proceeded. That's how he wanted them to see him. So he came towards the demon. He said, you need to come with me. And demon's like, no. And Lucifer looked at me and said, I know you don't want me to harm the woman, so I will return tonight for it. And he turned around and walked down the hallway and disappeared. And my friends and I, when we left, I told her, I said, he'll come back for us. Don't worry about it. And when we all went home, we all went to our respective beds, and at 3 a.m. we all woke up and heard, it's done.
Ooh.
And then I called the woman the next day. She's like, it's been so many years since I felt like this, nothing left. And I said, please get some counseling. You have PTSD from this. Get counseling. The last thing I knew, she did. But my friends to this day can't wrap their head around it. It's like my friend that's the minister, Aaron, he says, I've always known the devil existed. I've always known God existed. But to actually see them in the same location at almost the same time, he says, I just can't wrap my head around it. And I told him, I said, that's why God told me to bring you, because you had the fear of the dark. You cannot have a fear of the dark ones and serve him. He says, this just made my faith so much stronger. And from that moment on, he's gone with me on a lot of different removals. and he's really enjoys doing it, enjoys helping the people.
Well, see, what's great is he's seen it firsthand now, and it's something you can't deny. I mean, it's no matter what it is, no matter what type of experience you have in life, like even if you've never seen a space shuttle go up, okay, or a rocket, and you finally see it, look, you saw it, you can't deny it anymore. It's the same thing. So that really had a huge impact.
Yeah, it did on both of them.
That's awesome. Now, I'm going to kind of veer off here a little bit. This is something I've always been intrigued about. I know a lot of people have, and I always I know they're real, but I'm like, to what extent? And that's curses. I mean, and are they real? Because I'm like, okay, like the curse I'm used to seeing are two different ones from movies when someone does like a spell. Or or the what's it called, the voodoo doll or whatever. Like, come on, come on, prick me all you want. but the question is, here's what it comes about. Is it a thing about? I mean, if your spiritual faith is really intact and you're strong, it's not going to hit you as hard, or does it only hit those that are very weak and susceptible to it?
Okay, curses are not like you see in the movie, not like you hear from grandma, great-grandma, or whatever. There's only two reasons for, quote-unquote, a curse. One of them can be because a human dies. You did wrong to this human, and they die, and they don't cross. They're so mad, they are so wanting to get back at you that they will remain earthbound, and they will torment you for the rest of your life, or until... Some of them will even go to the next in line. Like, say, the great-grandfather, did them wrong, and they're so mad. And then when that one dies, they go for his son, and then his son, and then his son. That people think generational curse. But most of the time, that's what it is. The other thing that it can be, and usually is a demonic. They will attach. And they will cause as much damage as they can. And people think of it as a curse, but no, all these bad things happen. Let me think about that. That's part of their MO. They, your life goes in the toilet. Your finances go down. You lose your job. Your relationships go down the toilet. Your health goes down the toilet because it's all about isolating the individual and making the individual as miserable as possible and making them suffer. So, you think of that? You look at it in context with a quote-unquote curse.
Yeah. Now that makes sense now. I totally get it. The picture's there finally. Because I always wondered about that. I think a lot of people in the audience have too. Like, how do curses work?
Yeah, that's in my new book as well, because I wanted to put the record straight,
Well, see, because curses, we always get the Hollywood version in our heads, and when you see so much of that, that's all you know. But in reality, it's a little bit different. Well, it's a lot different, in a way, because of course Hollywood always got to make things hyped.
yeah, it's kind of like the paranormal shows you see on TV. It's all about hype. It's all about getting the greatest ratings and stuff like that. And behind the scenes, it's totally different. People see that and they think that that's what it's like. That's what it's about. And it's not that way. It's kind of like I won't mention names. I was on a radio show years ago with another person.
Mm-hmm.
And the person went first and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, you interview them first. And then, they brought me in, and the person's like, well, I've never had any encounters with any kind of negative, not human, not demonic. I don't even think they exist.
You should look at that as a blessing.
Yeah. I said, wow, must be nice. I wouldn't know.
Gosh.
And then I was talking to Michael afterwards, and I said, Michael, what's up with that? He says, because he couldn't handle it. He's a medium, or claims to be a medium. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
But he couldn't handle it. Even if he saw one, it would throw him over the edge. And then he went somewhere on a trip, And what does he come back with? Because I actually ran into him in passing, a demonic attachment. I'm like, oh, baby, I'm not even going there. I just turn around and walk the other way.
Oh, my gosh.
You don't believe in him? Okay. All right. Well, that's your problem.
Wow.
That's your problem to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with it.
Well, you know what? And here's what gets me. People let their guard down when they're like, oh, I don't believe in that. Well, just because it hasn't happened to you, it doesn't mean it can't, And
right.
You don't want that. I mean, so even if I don't believe some, you know what? I'm just going to believe it. And because
CYA, CYA.
Right? Gosh.
Well, my husband's like that. My husband's one of these people that if you can't touch it, feel it, or see it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? He's very left-brained. He's an auditor, very, very left-brained. And then we went down to the coast one year to visit my cousin and her husband for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And we were staying at one of our timeshares down there. And I'm upstairs, and I feel something negative. And my husband and my son are downstairs. And my husband suddenly bellows, get out here. So I'm taking the stairs, 3 at a time. I get down there, and he's like pointing at this thing. What he sees is this blob of black, and it morphs into like a little girl with black eyes.
Ooh.
And I'm like, he's like, what the hell is that? And then it shoots out of the French doors, and it's gone. I looked at him, and I said, that, my dear husband, is a shadow person. Welcome to my world. He's like, I never want to see that again. Never, never.
Yeah, but it's like, hey, sweetie, now you get it. Now you believe it.
I know. It's like, there you go. Sorry. And then after that, he started seeing, my sister, who's one of my guardians, and my grandma drops by from time to time. And he's like, did you come out last night? I said, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I grabbed a picture of my grandma. I said, did the person look like this? Yeah, but no, it was you. I'm like, fine, whatever you want.
Yeah. Be in denial all you want, sweetheart.
Yeah. He says, make them stop. I don't want to see them.
It's amazing. And it's not that people intentionally don't want to believe. If you've never seen something, I get it, or experienced something. But it's amazing how someone go all their life, and within a microsecond, it changes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so.
Because I didn't even tell my husband about my abilities until I was like 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
With our only child, and I'm like, this is what I can do. This is what I do, and the thing that's inside of me is probably going to have gifts too. So, welcome to my world.
That's amazing.
And he looks at me like, okay. He hadn't a clue. But, not being married to me for, 33 years now, he's seen more things than he wants to.
Now, I just want to come close to the end, but I just something I really want to ask about. So we went through the whole COVID thing last year, which affected all of us. So annoying. I know we're all annoyed by that. But the big thing of COVID was the lockdowns and people being secluded in their homes. To me, that is not healthy for the mind or the soul. Have you seen people get more or more of these things happening, like negative entities, spirits, etc., just from being isolated? Because that can really get to you, like especially your head, and you start letting your guard down.
The minute the stuff started, my opinion is, and from what I can gather from the other side, COVID is man-made. So, anyway,
of course, I believe that too. Yeah.
But when the minute it happened, more and more negative entities started entering the world, because there's all the depression, all the pain, all the anxiety, all the worry, all the fear, and it feeds them. So they're just, come on down, smorgasbord, dinner and a show. But really, since 2013, things have been increasing. God came to me one day and said, listen, I just wanted to warn you, things are going to start ramping up. The darkness is pushing again. So, and that was in like the summer of 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2013 was when the first school shooting happened. And he says there's going to be an increase in paranormal activity, mental illness. He says violence. And sure enough, it all started happening. In 2018, the January 25th edition of Newsweek, it said, the Vatican came out and said, we are training more exorcists than ever in our history.
That's right. I remember that.
Because of the increasing amount of possessions. I'm like, really? I knew it was coming in 13. You're a little slow. You're a little slow on the uptake there.
Well, you know what? It's funny you said that, because that's actually true. I remember reading that, and what gets me is it wasn't last year, the year before last, I was working on getting an interview with one of the top exorcists from the Archdiocese in Indianapolis. And you know what? I forget what his name is, this priest, but he used to do interviews all the time. No time for anybody because he has so many exorcisms he's doing. And his secretary and some of the other Jesuits, whatever, that talked to me, they're like, it's crazy. It's just ramped up. And it sounded like, from what they were saying, it was close to around the time frame that you mentioned, like ever since, like starting around 2013 till now, even I've seen a huge uptick. I mean, it's pretty obvious. And I was just like, wow.
I mean, average month for me for doing removals is like, when it's not so busy, is like 20. And now I'm doing anywhere from 40 to 50.
Wow.
A month. I get emails constantly. And the problem is, people think I'm sitting around eating bonbons all day.
I wish, or you wish we were.
I know, but I work for a living.
You got a job to do.
I'm working like 40, 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I get to you when I can get to you.
That's exactly right.
I spend my weekends doing that. I'm vigilant about answering them all and getting them all done. It takes time. From that one interview with Clyde way back in 17 or 18, in 1 week I got 200 requests for help.
Well, isn't it crazy that you don't hear from people until they find out about you? Then you realize, people start coming out of the woodwork, because not that they're afraid, it's just maybe they're in denial, but then they finally realize.
And they don't know where to go for help.
I wouldn't know where to go either.
Another thing about my new book, I've talked to Keith Johnson and his brother and the Archbishop of the Order of St. Michael Exorcists out of L.A. He's a friend of mine, and I put his information. I got everybody's permission. So there's a lot of information there about where to get help, how to get help, what their websites are, what the links are, and so that people can get help. This is very important.
Yeah. So of course, your website is mysticconnections.org, and we'll have... Or demonseer.com. Demonseer.com. And we'll have all that in the description and everything, including all your books. But is that the best way for individuals to reach out to you, is through your website?
Yeah.
That is, okay.
Yeah, because there's contact information there, there's contact sheet, and it comes right to me, and I try to answer within 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, that's a good turnaround time.
Kind of response. Yeah, I try to give some kind of response, like I'm working on it, or I got your message. But the important thing is, if they send me a picture, either of the location or the individual is having problems, it makes it much easier because I know what's there and I can deal with it. I can do the removals from a distance. I do not have to be there to do them.
Nice.
Because I get requests from Australia, the Netherlands, all over.
Well, I kind of like getting the heads up, too, of what I'm going to be dealing with. I mean, it's kind of, yeah.
That's the easiest way, because then I know what it is, how long it's been there, why it came, what attracted it, that sort of thing.
Well, and it helps you prep properly, too.
Yep.
Nice. Well, June, it's been an absolute honor to talk to you. I'm trying to think if I missed anything. There's just so much. Is there anything you would like to go over that I might have missed or tell our audience?
One of the things is, if you have animals and if there's a negative around, they you watch the animals. They will know. They're closer to God than we are as humans, and they can sense a negative from a mile away, and they will growl. They will look at things that aren't supposed to be there. I went in on a case where the animals were being killed by the demon. They had killed the pet bird. They twisted its head completely around and squeezed the pet rat's head through a half an inch bar. Killed it. And they were working on a therapy dog.
That's wild.
So animals are acutely aware.
Oh, they're very aware. I mean, we have a little Pomeranian here in the... she's so cute. But we got a little Pomeranian. But dogs in general, it's like how we got the basic senses. The dogs have so many senses, and they can... It's like our dog was just, oh my gosh, something was bothering her in the room. We couldn't see nothing. And it's like, of course dogs can see the realms we can't.
Oh, yeah.
A lot easier than we can. Some of us, like you and others, are blessed to have these gifts. But dogs, it's like, oh my gosh, like, why can't I just naturally have that?
Yeah, cats are the same way. They'll be like, no way, not even going there.
But the thing is, we don't want some of us to have that because, unfortunately, some people couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Now, growing up with it, such as yourself, you're accustomed to it. You know how to deal with it and work with it. But some people, probably me, I'd probably start flipping out. Pull out my shotgun, try to shoot the demon, even though it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Leave them alone.
I know. Don't acknowledge.
Another thing I will tell you that if you suspect there is a demon, do not sage, because, the sage will piss them off and the activity will ramp up 100-fold. Because once you sage, you're acknowledging the fact that they're there.
So don't sage at all. Zero.
Yeah. Zero, because it will just amplify everything. People think, well, I'm just going to sage, that'll make them go away. But, if it is negative, it will piss them off. And if it's not negative, then it'll get rid of it. It'll even get rid of a human negative. But if it's an inhuman, it's on. It's like you've declared war.
Wow. So listen up, audience. She knows what she's talking about. Don't do it.
Yeah, please don't do it.
No saging.
No.
Well, June, thank you very much for your time. And once again, I want to just tell our audience, go check out our websites, check out our books. Everything's going to be below. And if you need to contact, go directly to our site. All the information will be there. Very fascinating stuff. Great topics, too. Because unfortunately, just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And I can back June up because I've had some experiences. And yeah, that totally changes your mindset. Which it does. Completely. So, but it's been an honor to have you, June. And I appreciate you being on the show today.
I enjoyed my time with you. You're a really great interviewer.
Oh, thank you. I do what I can. I do what I can.
You're good.
You have a great day, June.
You too. Take care.
Thanks.
God bless.
You too.